make things. We use our hands, minds, and machines to build, to fix, to improve. We're known as do-it-yourselfers, home improvement fans, fix-it fanatics, inventors. At our core, though, we're all makers. So let's jump in and make something. Sometimes what it takes to get started on a home improvement project is a little encouragement from someone else. That's what inspired me to tackle a job I've been putting off for quite a while, reglazing my 35-year-old windows. After I'm finished with that, I head to the Great Northwest to help an Olympia, Washington couple give their home a bit of a lodge look with the addition of a post and beam detail for their family room. Good stuff. Stick with me. I got an email from Dennis. He says, I can't seem to find out how to reglaze window glass. The old putty on each pane is hard and brittle. Well, Dennis didn't wait around for me to get back to him. He went ahead and did the job himself, and he says the results turned out great. In fact, he goes on, this is one of those mysterious jobs that we would pay someone a lot of money to do. When the job is done, I thought, this is just too simple. No harder than making an apple pie. Well, Dennis, thank you for the email. I'm going to incorporate some of your suggestions with my own experience because I've got a window out there that's definitely in need. Well, I'd say this window is a real good candidate for reglazing. Now, the first step in this job is to remove the old material. There are several ways you can do that. I'm going to show you a few and pick the one that works best for you. I'm going to start with a very stiff putty knife. Now the idea here is to go in on the bottom of the glazing where it contacts the wood and kind of break it loose like that. Now it helps to file a sharp edge on the end of your putty knife. Now sometimes heat from a heat gun in combination with a putty knife can work really well because the heat actually can soften this glazing even though it might be really hard from age. Now you can see this works really well. One note of caution here, be careful not to overheat the glass because you can crack it. Now, this is called the putty chaser. It's made by Prozzi, and its sole purpose in life is to take old glazing compound out of windows. It has sort of a flat blade here, like a blunt screwdriver, and it spins and knocks out the old material. Let me show you right here. Well, I got all of this old glazing cleaned off, but I got into a little bit of a rush right here, and I cracked a pane. So I put some duct tape on here to keep it from shattering. I'm going to take this out now and replace it. When I'm removing broken glass panes, I protect my hands with leather or Kevlar gloves and my face with a plastic shield. With the masking tape in place on both sides, I tap the glass with the end of my putty knife just enough to make it shatter. Most of the broken pane can lift out in one piece. Well, I've got that pane of glass out, and we're just about ready to replace it and put our window glazing in. But you can see we have a lot of exposed wood right here, and I'm going to paint that with an oil-based primer for two reasons. First of all, this wood is very old and very dry, and I don't want it to draw the oil out of the glazing prematurely, cause it to crack and shrink. Secondly, anything that's exposed here, I want to weatherproof and seal it, and the primer will do that. Now, since this is oil-based paint, I'm going to let it dry overnight, then I'll come back tomorrow, put that glass in, and finish up the glazing. Now, truth be told, most often I just take my measurements down to the hardware store or the glass company and have them cut glass for me. But there are times when I do like to cut my own. So I'm going to do that now, and maybe you'll pick up some tips here that you'll find useful. First thing, of course, is we've got to clean the surface of the glass. And this may sound a little bit silly, but glass that is not clean just simply won't cut very well. It won't score properly. Now I'm going to make my measurements. The width was 8.5 and 8.5 up here. Now, a metal straight edge like this can slip a little bit on glass, so I like to put a piece of tape on the back. This is just masking tape. All right, we're lined up. I'm just going to draw a mark down through here. Now it's time to cut, or actually score the glass. This is a glass cutter. The way I hold this with these teeth or notches facing downward, I place my first finger about right here and then tip it up at about this angle. Now I like to dip the cutter in some oil, acts as a lubricant, get a good grip on my straight edge here, and I'm going to make just one scoring cut. Now, you want to break the glass fairly soon after you score it. And the way I like to do it, just to make sure I get a straight cut, is to put a piece of dowel under the score and then press down on two sides. I repeat the process to cut the glass to length. First scoring, then placing a dowel underneath, and finally breaking. Well, there it is. Now, sure, I could go out and have somebody else cut this for me, but I have to admit there's a certain amount of satisfaction in doing it myself. Now, before I can set this in the frame, I've got to put what I can call, I guess, a bedding coat of glazing putty in here, and that will actually act as a cushion for the glass. Glazing putty is the material that seals glass panes into their frames. I find it easier to use if I first knead it, then form it into a rope shape. Next, I lay the putty into place with my fingers. And finally, use a flexible putty knife to press it firmly onto the lip of the window frame. I set the glass pane in the bed of putty and press around the edges to make sure I get a good seal. This is called a glazier's point, a small metal clip that will hold the glass in place, especially while the putty is drying. I embed these into the wooden frame using a putty knife. With the glass in place, I can now apply more glazing putty to the outside. This will form a weather-tight seal to keep out water and drafts. Dipping my putty knife in paint thinner allows it to glide more smoothly over the surface, leaving it level and neat. The excess putty on the glass lifts off easily. Now, this is a product I haven't tried before, window glazing in a caulking tube. Let's give it a shot. The caulking tube nozzle is designed to lay a bead that's just wide enough for the job. This product is water-based, so that's what I'll dip my putty knife in. The material is also a bit thinner and stickier than glazing putty. I might be better off waiting until it has partially set before trying to remove the excess. That turned out pretty well too. You know, I'm not sure which variety I like. On one hand, the old-fashioned kind cleans up a little more easily, but the caulking tube variety certainly does go in easily. You know what I think? You should try both and then choose the one that you like best. So what is particle board? Well, actually it's wood, dust, chips, and flakes that's combined with resin and then made into panels using heat and pressure. But not all particle board is created equal. This smooth variety right here is called MDF, or medium density fiberboard. It's typically used as a core material for countertops, and some cabinets are made of this. This piece over here, with the larger particles of wood, is used as floor underlayment underneath carpet or vinyl flooring. Larger pieces or flakes of wood like this are used for making products like wafer board or OSB, oriented strand board. Now, because these pieces are larger, they have more structural strength. Typically, they're used as sheathing on roofs and walls and for subfloors. Now, plywood by definition is not particle board. It's actually thin layers of wood that stack perpendicular to each other, and it's that alternating grain pattern that really makes it quite strong. Well, now you can pick the perfect particle board or plywood for your next project. Boy, try saying that 3 times fast. No matter how carefully I try to pour paint out of a can, I'm almost always left with drips on the outside and paint filling the rim. But it really doesn't have to be this way. I've found 3 replacement lids with built-in spouts that eliminate the mess. This lid snaps into the groove on the can rim. It has a removable inner cover and an open pouring spout. It pours freely and allows unwanted paint to flow back into the can. The spout does, though, require just a bit of wiping. A nice plus is this built-in brush holder, 2 small magnets that grip the steel ferrule. Lid number 2 fits on the outside of the can. The molded-in spout has a screw-off cap and an air vent. The vent makes for smooth, even pouring, and the spout needs almost no cleanup. This metal lid replaces the one that comes with the can. It has a built-in collapsible spout that pops out with a tug on the cap ring. Because this lid has no air vent, pouring tends to be a little less even, producing a sort of gulping action. In the end, though, it makes a fairly neat finish. When I'm finished, I screw the cap back onto the nozzle and then push the whole spout back down into the lid. The good thing about this, I can stack one can on top of another. Kathy and Tim Podovich have asked me for a hand, so I'm going to pay them a house call.
Hi.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
Hi, Ron. I'm Tim.
All right.
This is Cooper.
Cooper. My pleasure, sir. And you are?
Cole.
Hey, Cole. And this would be?
Riley Rose.
Hey, Riley. How are you this morning? Huh?
Say fine.
Take a look inside and
Sure.
see the project?
Come on in.
Ron, this is where we'd like to put the beam up in our living room.
Okay. All right. Now, why do you want to do this?
Well, we're looking for a little more lodge look.
Okay. So this would be like a little bit of touch of rustic.
Right. That's what we're looking for. Warm it
Okay.
up.
I think that'll do it. It'll also probably divide up these rooms a little bit more, which might make it look good, too.
Right. That's what we're trying to do.
All right. So what are you going to do this afternoon?
Go to the movies.
Go to the movies? You're not going to be here working with us? To create the rustic look Kathy wants, we'll build 3 elements: a beam, 2 posts, and 2 diagonal braces, often called knee braces. Now these will look authentic, but we're going to trick the eye a bit. Okay, guys, I've set up a bunch of tools here in the backyard. We're going to make these beams and posts today using something called box construction. Several pieces of wood put together to look like solid wood, but it's really hollow on the inside. So you cool with this?
Yeah.
You got the idea?
I think it'd be great. Think it'll look good.
So let's start by doing some cutting here. Our first step is to fashion the individual pieces for the beam, posts, and braces. We'll start by cutting standard 1x4s and 1x6s into strips of varying widths. Next, we'll make angled cuts or bevels along the edges. To do this, we set the blade on the table saw at a 45-degree angle. Okay, guys. With the bevels cut on the edges, it's time to measure and mark for length. And let's make this one needs to be 91. Then we make our cuts on the power miter saw. Well, guys, we've cut all the wood for the entire project over here. And now what I want to do is to begin to assemble the pieces. We're going to start with the beam that goes up on the ceiling, and I've got a little mock-up here. This is what it's actually going to look like. I think it would clear things up if we went inside. Let me show you how this is actually going to work, okay?
Okay.
I'll follow you. It's going to go right up here in the corner, and it's going to give us the look when it goes all the way across of that beam. Back outside, we begin assembling our beam, posts, and braces. Yellow wood glue is first applied to the beveled edges. Then the sections are placed together and carefully aligned. Put that right up there. Kind of squish it a little bit. What you want to do is you press down first and then pull a quick pull on the trigger.
Okay.
Small-headed finish nails driven in with a pneumatic nail gun will hold the pieces together until the glue dries. With the beam finished, we move on to the posts that will support each end of the beam.
And vice versa.
The process is the same, but the shape is slightly different, like a shallow U. Finally, we assemble the knee braces. After nailing them together, they resemble long, hollow boxes. On each end, we make 45-degree cuts, or miters, that will allow the braces to fit snugly between the beam and posts.
Okay.
Inside, we go to work on the art of illusion. We begin by screwing a strip of 1x4 lumber to the ceiling.
Okay, Tim, just push it right up on there.
Then, slip a section of our ceiling beam over this cleat and nail it in place.
Good. Very nice.
Next, we measure the remaining distance to the wall. Cut the next section to length and slip it into
See how it's
place.
in a little further? Yes. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
To cover the joint between the two sections, we create a make-believe scab. It's a brace that would have been used to join real beams together. An authentic scab would have had wooden pegs that passed entirely through the beam. Ours are only long enough to enhance our illusion. With the beam up, we turn our attention to the posts. Once again, we start by installing a cleat. Luckily, we find wall studs just where we need them and are able to use wood screws. If we hadn't been so lucky, we'd have secured the cleats with toggle bolts. Finally, we add the diagonal knee braces, and our illusion is complete. If you didn't know differently, you'd swear these make-believe timbers were the real thing.
Now, what could be better? Your own lodge right here at home, huh?
We love it. It's exactly what we're looking for.
Turned out great. Well, here's to more successful home improvement projects,
Great.
guys.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
To view today's projects again, visit ronhazelton.com. Step-by-step home improvement tips when you need them. Let Ron show you how to do it yourself.